Hello everyone, well this weekend we're coming to you from the front yard. As you can probably tell from the sound of the birds in the background. The reason I'm here and not on the boat, which is where I've spent most of the previous weekends, is because we in South Australia have scored another lockdown. It is of course 2021, which is much the same as 2020. We're into our second. New South Wales have had a number, Queensland have had a few, Western Australia have had a few, Northern Territory has had one, Alice Springs has had one, Victoria have had 5, so it was our turn. And we've at least got 7 days in lockdown. However, a couple of weeks ago I was able to get some pretty significant maintenance done on the boat, including the installation of the centerplate, which is what I'd like to talk about today. So what is a centerplate, and do you even need it, given that we've obviously been sailing without one? Well, if you're familiar with dinghy sailing or windsurfing on longboards, you're familiar with having a centerboard or a daggerboard, which goes through the basically the middle of the hull, and you can deploy it, put it in the down position, or you can retract it. And what it does is it essentially enables you to resist the lateral forces of the sail, and it gives you purchase on the water when you're sailing upwind. And in the case of our boat, it's also something you can retract if you're in shallow water, and of course if you're going to bring the boat out on the trailer, then you have to retract it. So ours is a fully retractable centerplate. Now ours is made of steel, so it does make it rather heavy. It's about 50 kilograms. So it needs at least 2 of us to install it, which is why for this installation, when it came to actually put it on the boat, I had some assistance from the previous owner, Troy. So the first thing I had to do was machine down the rust and some of the old paint with an angle grinder. I then had to apply a 2-pack epoxy paint, which goes between the bare metal of the center plates and the anti-foul, which I'd put on later. The primer has made it go very runny, but of course that will change very quickly. Alright, there we go. I wish we had a few more days, to be honest. I'm going to go through these days very fast that I'm off. But we'll do what we can. Okay, that's going to do. The next thing we had to do was actually get the boat out of the water. Unlike last time, when we just put it on the trailer, it had to get a lot higher out of the water so we could attach the center plate. So it had to go in a cradle, or a jenker as they call it. This was the first time I had done it, or I actually steered the boat onto it myself. But I must say, once I got to the cradle, I had quite a bit of help from Troy and from Alan in helping me put the boat into the right position before we started pulling the boat out of the water. I have to get that yellow boat from there into that cradle.
Yep. Just go astern quickly. Go astern. Go astern. That's it. Yeah, I think she's gonna, yeah, there we go. Okay, you out of gear?
I'm out of gear.
Okay, good. We'll probably turn that off.
Off, can it?
Yeah.
Roger. So this is the cover of the winch. And inside goes this. And this slides in there, there's a pin there. And it locks into place, preventing it from turning there. So, what I need to get is a spring that fits just there. So that will essentially return it to there and lock it in place. That makes a lot more sense now that I've actually got it open. Now I know what I need to get. I then went on a bit of a merry dance around Adelaide looking for stainless steel parts for the winch, but in particular I needed to get a tiny spring which was quite hard to find. Also some wire, 2mm wire rope, and a thimble to basically so it didn't rub on the centerboard. We had mixed luck at United Fasteners. They're a good little store, but they don't have everything. So we got some thimbles of different sizes, 3 different sizes, and we got some stainless steel sleeves or swages, which is what you use on the wire rope to fasten it. We could have got the wire rope, but we would have had to buy 50 meters of it. In fact, we might have even had to buy more, a whole roll of it. I only need a couple of meters, 4 meters max. So, that's over $300. If we get everything else and we got nowhere else to go to get it, I guess we bite the bullet and get it, and we'll never have to get wire rope again. But I'd rather only get a few meters. But the main thing we were after, which was the spring, we had no joy with. So we're off to City Springs to try and get that now. Major success. We have here, ta-da, lots of tiny springs, all in stainless steel. I thought we could be in some real trouble there for a moment, but City Springs, they have all kinds of springs there, and they also have them in stainless steel. So I'm very happy about that. Still a couple of things we got to get, but that was the one I thought would be the most difficult. Okay, wire rope, albeit a smidgen smaller than what I've got. It's 2mm, so it's stainless, it should work. Swages, 2mm. Swaging tool. I think we're set. The first thing I'm going to do this morning is give this area a little bit of a rub, because that needs to be primed. And as I'm potentially down to bare fiberglass, I'm going to put on a respirator and some goggles, just a bit of extra protection. I then gave the hull a fresh coat of anti-foul paint. In particular, there were some areas I couldn't get to before when it was on the trailer, so that got quite a bit of attention. I think I got quite a bit of it on myself as well, so I got a bit of a coat. This is the same paint that we did the anti-fouling on the boat a few weeks ago. Let's see what condition it's in, shall we? It's pretty good. Just need a bit of a stir and we'll be good to go. Now that the epoxy paint on the center plate was dry, I could also give that a coat of anti-foul before it got installed the following day. So the following day we came to the actual installation itself, and wasn't that a blast? Like all things on boat work, nothing goes terribly smoothly. You have to install it at 90 degrees pretty much to the bottom of the hull, otherwise you won't be able to get it in, and unfortunately there wasn't enough clearance between the bottom of the hull, the keel that is, and the blocks below it.
Yeah, the slots.
So
like on the diagonal.
I thought, you know what, we're going to have to come back to this another time. Until Troy noticed that the supporting framework of the cradle basically was comprised of two parallel bars. There was a tiny gap between it, just wide enough to get the centerplate. So he said, how do you feel about us cutting off the coach bolts to the blocks, 6 of the blocks, removing them? We should be able to slide it in, and then when you float the boat off, it should be able to come off. So in the end, that's what we did. Lo and behold, what do you know? It worked, and it fit just in between. Troy has angled the bolts off in order to remove these blocks. However, not to be outdone, we had more dramas, because when we tried to attach the wire to the winch drum, we found that one of the retaining grubs was essentially rounded off, so we couldn't move it. So Troy, being the shipwright he is, took to it with a drill, and with a lot of patience was actually able to remove that grub from the basically from the drum. So the following day out I went again and was able to get 2 replacement retaining grubs in stainless steel. Another win. I have here 6 grub screws, 2 slightly longer than the other 4, none of which are the exact same length as the one I already have in the winch, but they all fit. They're all marine grade stainless steel. I'm going to just try the longer and the shorter ones to see which are the best ones. I think the longer ones might protrude a little bit, as seeing as the line, the wire has to go around there, I probably want this flush. So as long as there's enough length to the shorter ones, I'm probably going to use those. But we have what we were looking for, and I think we can now go and install this. So we're on the home stretch now, but we weren't quite finished because we had to connect up the other end of the wire to the bottom of the center plate. Otherwise, how can you retract it? Unfortunately, it was located underneath the frame of the cradle, and we couldn't retract it because there was another bar blocking it. We had to literally float the boat out of that position to clear it, and we weren't in the water yet. So Troy tried first and identified the problem, that it was just really hard to get leverage on the swaging tool, and you had to apply quite a bit of pressure to squash it into place, squash the swage into place to secure it.
I think you're kidding yourself with that.
So the following day I came back to it, and it took me about 2 hours to work a way of doing it, but eventually we were able to do it. So after 5 days hard work, I've now got a boat with a retractable centre plate that works, and I can say it actually does make quite a bit of difference going upwind. So I'm glad I installed it, glad I had an opportunity to do a little bit more maintenance on the boat to areas I couldn't get to before, and it should now be in the water for the next 6 months or so. Now, let's just check that this works.